Greetings, traveler.
Hey everyone, we've got our first big patch of the mid-season. Let's dive right in. As usual, we're going to start with the removed and returning cards. We no longer have Egg, Ship Jumper, Bristlemane, and Bully. So I think the Bristlemane and the Bully just weren't played very often. Ship Jumper, same deal. Ever since it was changed from a Death Rattle, it just was significantly worse. Now at high MMR, I still saw players buffing this, so it wasn't completely unplayed. But now we also have Spacefarer, so that's another Pirate 6-drop that really dilutes the pool. But Egg is the big one. It's more of a toxic card if AFK discovers it. If you triple into it super early, right? This is just, it gives you Ring Bearer at an unreasonably early time. So probably good for that to end up going for balance reasons. Then we have Fellhorn coming back. So that is good or bad news, depending on how you stand on Shimmermoth, because this guy is the reason that Shimmermoth is viable. If you're wondering, why am I not seeing beetles in my lobbies? It's because this guy wasn't in. Rylak with Fellhorn, and then Bran, and then Titus, and then pop, 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 pop on your Shimmermoth. That's so much damage. So yeah, this is how Shimmermoth scales a lot. So I do expect beetles, particular Shimmermoth, to be making a return after this card is reintroduced. And then we have Costume Enthusiast coming back as well. That is just support for the hand buff Murloc. We've seen them putting a lot of buffs towards that, so that does make sense that they're returning one of these enablers. Trench Fighters coming back. That is also very necessary if you want to do a cool Gem Barrage comp. So this is something a lot of players are like, you could do this? You can put your gem transfer in the shop. So if you've played a lot of Gem Barrages and your shop is huge, let's say you got 5 minions in your shop, you play gem transfer, you make one big guy, then you move it in the shop for the other 2 that still have gems, and then you slurp the gems off those as well. And now you have a huge minion. Basically, you concentrated all the stats of the shop onto one minion. And that can be very useful with magnetics. That can be very good buffing a cleave in the shop. Or you just put that huge minion on your board, and then later you use the gem transfer to transfer the gems from that minion to something else. Tide Color Prophet is just a wording change for clarity. So when you play this card, the spell power is temporary only that turn, and this wording makes that more clear. So that's fair. Chromadrake gets a nerf here, so dragons really needed a boost, and now Blizzard's like, wait, but not that much. So it's coming down a notch again. It's going from 4-2 to 3-1. Same thing with the green Chromadrake, goes from 2-4 back to 1-3. Root Mother ends up going to 5. It was a little good in combination with the Researcher, or whatever that card was called, the 4-drop that generates Chromadrakes. If you have that and Brood Mother, you can farm a lot of Chromadrakes, and then, you know, it's gold, it's triples, it's tempo. It's a very, very good thing to play early. Now we have Hollow Rover going from a tier 4 to a tier 5, so that might be a little bit surprising because mechs were not doing so well a while ago. That's why, for instance, Hollow Rover was reintroduced. But now with all the changes with the trinkets, the anomalies, the junk jouster, the ingenious inventor, all of a sudden mechs are the #1 type in if you look at average placement. That is a statistic that we got from our sponsor, HS Replay. If you're interested in accessing those statistics, or in general you just want to use the tracker that I use in all my games that I have for years, you can check it out in the pinned comment below. You can download the tracker entirely free. The Hollow Rover does gain Divine Shield back, but it's still way better to get it on tier 4, simply because you just get it much earlier, you can reboard it, you can get a pair super easy, so definitely a nerf. Primitive Painter goes from 1-2 to 2-2. Yeah, so this type of Murloc has not been doing well. In general, Murlocs are not doing poorly right now, but that is, I think, almost entirely of Double Stitch Needle, and we're going to see that being adjusted. So yeah, Murlocs do need some help overall. Bream Counter goes to 6-6. This is just... I love it, man. It's the approach they do, right? It's like, if they don't play it, make it bigger until they play it. So Bream Counter went from at least 4-4 to 5-5 to 6s, but I don't even know, maybe it was 3-3 at one point, right? So it might be double as big of a buff right now. Now I will say, in anomaly meta, the cap is super high, the games are super fast, so you're always looking for a comp that just goes crazy, right? We're talking back-to-back, we're talking big shop buff demons, even like big elementals, something like that. Bream Counter just doesn't really do that. So that's the issue if you're playing in this very high, because you might ask yourself, well, why is that? Why are comps, why are boards bigger in anomaly meta, right? For veteran players, that might be a silly question, but you just introduce more resources, right? So if you're playing in a doubleheader, for instance, you buy 2 cards for your first buy. That is an enormous just economy injection into your game. So the board you have in a doubleheader game on turn 10 is way better than the board you have in, let's say, a no anomaly meta on turn 10. And that's why if you have that many extra resources, it makes sense to push for the really, really high cap comps. And unfortunately, Bream Counter just isn't really that, because the scaling doesn't get scaled that much, right? Like the Bream Counter never really gets that much bigger. The Burglar doesn't really do that many buffs. Whereas if you look at comps where you can boost the spell power through a Rylak, for instance, or comps where you can buff the shop even more like demons, those just continue to get bigger faster. And hand buff Murlocs just don't really do that. So I think that's more where the issue lies. It's really tough to make them competitive in this very high resource environment like anomalies. Jazzer goes from 3 to 2. That's really, they have a Jazzer button at Blizzard, but it'd be like, Quillbore need to do better. And then Jazzer goes from I'm a 2, I'm a 3, I'm a 2, I'm a 3, I'm a 2, I'm a 3. They do that so often. It's hilarious. So yeah, Quillbore need to win more. So Jazzer is a 2 now. Hot Air Surveyor goes back to a 4. So this is starting to get a little bit scary, because we did have a meta where they had a lot of Quillbore stuff on tier 4, where Quillbores never had to level past tier 4. And it's starting to look a little bit like that, where you can just have Prophet, Hot Air Surveyor, Rugug, and then cycle Foodies and Jazzers and Bacons, and you can actually get very big on tier 4. I would say the one counter to that is what we just talked about. It's anomaly meta, so the cap is higher, you have more resources, it's better to level. If we were outside of anomaly, I would be a little bit more worried about this, where you can just stay on tier 4 and just spam gems with Hot Air Surveyors, try to make like 2 golden Hot Air Surveyors, slam gems on a golden Rugug, and just go really big like that. I think you can still try that, but in anomaly meta, I would be less inclined to do that, just because so many resources, it's generally better to level. Skeletal Strafer goes from Avenge 2 to Avenge 1. So yeah, basically twice as fast. Yeah, I just don't think this unit makes sense right now. It's just a bit of a weird one, right? Because you put Skeletal Strafer on the board, it buffs your whole board, you get strong for a little bit, then your stuff stops dying, then your Avenge stops scaling, and then you're weak, and then your board dies. So it's one of those weird cards where Undead really feels like it's benefits from buffing the undead damage wherever they are. So we're talking about the Weaver buffs, we're talking about Butchering buffs. That just feels like such a superior undead build than something like this, where Skeletal Strafer to me pretty much always feels like a very, very temporary tempo card. If I get it, let's say on, like turn 7, it's on my board, I have some Avenge fodder, right? I've got like a Risen Rider on the board, maybe a skeleton or something. Sure, I'll take it, I'll get strong, I'll level, and then I'll sell it. Not too, short after that. I don't really see how they turn the card into something where it doesn't do that. It just, it's so much better to just buff the attack damage wherever the undead is. Dustbone Devastator is now +2 attack. Significantly better. Don't think it's broken. Just helps you go into undead a little bit more. So just some help for undead here with these last 2 changes. Dead Sea Ravager is now 4 targets instead of 3. This card is already, I would say, quite viable, where I love playing this with Charmwing. I have Charmwing, and I use some buffs to make the Ravager bigger, and then the Charmwing gives health to my dragons, the Dead Sea Ravager gives damage to my dragons. I've got Poet, so a lot of these buffs are going to be permanent. So yeah, this card was fine for me with 3, but it's going to 4 now. Possibly also because Brazen Buccaneer is getting a slight nerf here. It's going from 3-3 to 2-3. Now, I will say this card did feel really good in the mid game, where when I'm early tier 5, I pick this up very regularly, and then just, you spam cards, you stabilize. Works reasonably well with Spacefarer, there we go. But yeah, it looks like it was slightly too good, so that might be related where, this was very often used to buff the Ravager, so this gets weaker and might be a little bit of a buff here. Butchering, we just talked about that, goes from 3 attack to 5, that does feel good. In the Anomaly meta, it has been tough for me to play Undead. Again, Undead does continue to scale if you have spell power. If you have Belinda, your Butcherings do get bigger, so Undead can compete, but it is tough. Also, Butchering does not give you a gold, It might be too good, right? If you have Belinda and then you have Butchering, you gain gold for when you destroy it. But not getting a gold feels really bad, because if you have like 5 Butcherings in your hand, that's 5 things you kill that you can't sell. Now, that's not necessarily -5 gold, because you kill a death rattle and then that makes another death rattle, so you get 2 for the price of 1. Sometimes you even get 3 if you have enough board space or something like that. But still, it's tough on your economy having to kill off your units instead of selling them. So it's almost like you need to have Striker on your board to supply you with the undead, but then you are generating Butchering spells and you are generating Striker minions, so then your hand space is like too limited, where you can't hold any cards because you're generating Butchers, you're generating undead. Your hand is too full, so then you overflow, you don't really get value during the combat. It's a bit awkward, but overall, I'm still happy to play that if I've got Belinda, if I've got, say, a Geist for some spell power. Now my Butchering is going to add a lot of attack to my undead army, especially if you can add 1 HP to your spell scaling through a botanist or a meditative or something like that. Now you're generating some health on your undead as well, so you're not as vulnerable to blaster. So yeah, overall, big fan of the buff. Double time is just a wording change for brevity. That's whatever, it does the same thing. You triple when you have 2 cards only and you get a coin instead of a triple word. Then no more egg trinkets. I think the small one was already out, right? I think we covered that in a previous patch, but this is just to make sure, like, hey, no more eggs, no eggs, no eggs anywhere, no more egg. But the big one, I guess, might not have been out yet. So now we have that confirmation egg trinkets out. Yeah, just too good with Ring Bearer if you get that early. Just very, very nasty. There we go. This is the double stitch nerf I was talking about earlier. This was honestly my biggest miss in the patch review. I'm going to own up to that. Because I think this isn't that good if you don't have Coral. But with Coral, it's ridiculous. Because with double stitch needle, the double-edged sword of the double stitch needle is, yeah, I get a huge minion and I can't play it. So you probably are going to lose your fights. But if you have a Coral, you get to have the stats. It's like having your cake and eating it too. Well, no more. Blizzard's like, no more eating your cake. You can have the cake, you can look at it, you can't eat it. So now if you double stitch something big in your hand, you do not get the Coral synergy because it's now banned in Murloc lobbies. Aside from that, I don't know. It does scale very fast, maybe if you're super strong and you can afford to lose some fights, but then again, it's rare that you want to lose some fights. So it's also locked in your hand, so you can't summon it with a, well, Aviator, but that's a Murloc and it's banned anyway. So tough, much tougher, I would say, but definitely a deserved nerf because Murlocs were doing well, and I think a huge part of that is just double stitch. Like the moment you get double stitch, you're like, oh, turn my brain off, buy Corals, take my biggest guy, put it in the hand, repeat that every turn, use a Belinda, and it goes twice as fast. So yeah, was a very silly strategy. Then Chillmere Mosaic has been banned from Millhouse and Cindy. I honestly think that is because minions cost 2 gold on these heroes, and it's just weird that like it's just not as, because you might think, well, it's not OP, right? Because you have minions that cost 1 and minions normally only cost 2, so the value of a Chillmere Mosaic is lower when you play Millhouse or Cindy. So I don't even know if that's some kind of a coding thing where minions cost 2 and they can't change it, where yeah, I don't know, honestly. But whatever, it's gone. I don't think it's that influential. I don't think the trinket is that great for Sydney or Millhouse anyway, so. Then we have some trinket nerfs. The following trinkets will cost 1 extra gold. Yeah, Archaic Scroll is kind of crazy because it works when you cast spells in combat. So if you have the Emergent that has extra spell triggers in combat, and then you're playing Queen's Guard or you're playing the Chef's Choice Naga, your hand just goes like because you just cast so many spells. So yeah, the fact that it works in combat, very, very good. Then yeah, Bounties is almost always good. Wrench, Maleficent was actually the rank 1 hero on HS Replay when I checked that. Again, you know, link is in the pinned comments if you want to check that out too. I don't think it's like the only reason, but getting a Tavern spell when you magnetize, there are some synergies later on where it's easier. I guess with Hollow Rover, it's just too easy to get magnetic. So this might even need another nerf, but we'll see. Well, I guess Hollow Rover's on tier 5 now, so I'm thinking about that. Okay, so more nerfs here. Yeah, these are, well, Bluegill Flippers I didn't really play much with, but Lens Case and Splinter are both excellent, so I can see that. Rylak Trinket is 4. Now, sometimes you were offered Rylak Portraits for 0 because it was classified as a pivot trinket. This is a beast trinket because Rarran is a beast. It's still a bit weird that it's classified beast, but then again, what else would it be? But you very often use Rarran when you're completely not beast, right? So, but if you have no beasts on your board and you're offered Rarran trinket, it's classified as a pivot trinket because it's not something you were currently doing. So they make it cheaper. So very often you could get Rarran for 0, which is bullshit. So now, at the very least, if you're offered it as a pivot trinket, it will cost 2, and then the standard cost will be 4. These trinkets are all getting a buff. Yeah, that seems fair. Nothing really stands out here. The Filer portrait I just don't like, and now it costs 0 gold. Yeah, so sure. Yeah, all of these seem fair. So Tabby was nerfed and then I think now buffed again. I think that's also just a result of anomaly meta. Anomaly meta just changes the game so much. This like beast tempo stuff becomes a lot worse when you have tons of value at your disposal, and it's all about just go fast, 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 get the brand, go infinite gold. Now, to be fair, get the brand, go infinite gold is my favorite playstyle. So I actually love anomaly meta, but I'm just explaining why these more slower tempo strategies, well, I guess slow is not really the right word for them because they do come online fast, but I guess lower cap, right? It's if you're going beasts, it's really hard to be as good as someone that's just huge demons or huge back-to-back. So it's just not as interesting in anomaly meta. 1 gold less for a winder port. Yeah, I mean, this feels like such a waste of a lesser trinket for me usually. I'm just like, because Wrathweaver you do not care about, right? It's literally just a soul rider. So this is the, I will take this if I have like 2 Malkazars on my board somehow and I bought them before soul rider. That's when you take this, but you shouldn't be in that spot because you probably shouldn't have the Malkazars without the soul rider. Then 2 gold less for these guys, so big buffs. Pilgrim and Tapestry. Now, these were pretty good before the tier 6 demon was a tier 5. The guy that does the thing with the fodders, right? Whenever you sell a minion, you make a fodder, that one. The game was changed so much when that was moved from 5 to 6, and you might say, is that big of a difference? Like, yeah, it is, because before you could just have a rewinder on your board, take something like a Pilgrim sticker or a Tapestry, go to tier 5, and you could just assume that within a reasonable amount of time, you would find one of these guys that generates the fodders. Now that it's a 6, you have to triple into it, or you have to wait an additional turn where you do nothing except you just level the 6, which makes it much harder to not take damage, makes it much less of a consistent strategy. So yeah, huge change there, and you can really feel that in how often you get to play demons. They're still great if you get them online, it's just hard to get them online. Yeah, and then Blessing Portrait is 3 gold less. I have never even been remotely tempted to take this. It's just, it feels so useless. I'm sorry. Yeah, this is one of those very, very low value trinkets where it does not give you any money. It is just pure tempo, and then the tempo is contingent on you essentially having spell power, because if you don't have spell power, the blessing is just not as good. So it's 0 economy and it's only tempo really if you have spell power. That is so hyper specific niche that, again, I've never been tempted to take this. So even at 0 gold, I guess I will take this if I'm just like, well, I want to level and all the other trinkets cost too much, so sure, I'll take this. Right, and that's exactly what they're doing, right? They're making it free, and then maybe they'll even pay you to buy it, because they did that with the one that removes all the 1 and 2 drops from your shop. No one was taking that, and then they gave you 2 gold for taking it, and now you take it sometimes because like, hey, 2 extra gold this turn is actually kind of useful. So yeah, maybe with Blessing Portrait they'll do that. Who knows? Then Chromatic Tier, yeah, this is a very logical change. So this was insane when it gave 5 Chroma Drakes immediately, very, very toxic. It became slightly worse when it was 2 Chroma Drakes now, 2 Chroma Drakes the next turn for tempo immediately, but in the long run, it's obviously better because you're generating way more Chroma Drakes. So this was like a very, very good long-term value trinket. But if you compare this to Compass, which is perfectly fine, a lesser Compass gives you 1 card of a type. So yeah, Chromatic Tier giving you 1 Chroma Drake just makes sense. Now that makes it a lot worse because all of a sudden you're basically just getting a Compass, right? And Compass is fair. I would say it's slightly worse than a Compass now because Compass later can just turn into, ooh, I got like a 5-drop or a 6-drop, whereas this, it'll always be a Chroma Drake. So I do think the nerf is fair, but yeah, it does have the impact that all of a sudden the trinket is like, well, maybe, right? Maybe. Stuffed Coin Purse is basically the perfect anomaly trinket. You want a power level? Here's money for leveling. It's very easy to level in a lot of anomalies as well, where you have Grapnel of the Titans, for instance. You get to buy a minion for free every turn. especially early on. If that minion is something like a scout, a elemental, a shell collector, you're getting 2 gold for free. It's just, yeah, very easy to level. So I can see this being too good, so it's gonna go down 3 gold. Copper Coil is ridiculous with Electron. If you've I've recently played that. I've also reviewed a game of Beater Babbitt playing this. Just absolute beast of a game. So I don't think it's specifically for Electron that it got nerfed, but this is pretty decent, honestly, especially with Junk Jouster. Junk Jouster fulfills the immediate tempo because Copper Coil is a little slower, where this gives you 1-1 and then 2-2 and then 3-3. But the Junk Jouster is an immediate big buff for your board. And then once the Copper Coil has caught up, it kind of takes over and it's better scaling. Mysterious Orb, same as the Stuffed Coin Purse. In some anomalies, you don't even care too much about your trinket. It's kind of whatever. So you just go, go, go. Money, 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 level, 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 pop off. Try to get infinite as fast as possible. So a trinket that gives you gold right now to pull ahead of the pack is very good. I still haven't taken this because I like to play with trinkets. I'm always just like, I don't want to lose my greater trinket, but it is good. It is very good. I do think outside of anomaly meta, it'd be a lot worse, but because we're in anomaly meta and the name of the game is just speed, you have to go. Yeah, it's great. So nerfing that makes sense. Eni sticker goes from 7 to 8. Yeah, so that's a small nerf. We see that mechs are doing well, so mech trinket nerf, that does make sense. Phrasebook is from 3-2 to 3-3. Yep. Hand buff, Murloc buff. Yep. Buff, Murloc buff. Like, play hand buff, Murloc. The buffs will continue until hand buff Murloc is being played. And I'm not against it. Bleeding Heart from 9 to 8. Yeah, this is... Yeah, I don't like it, man. It used to summon it on the board, and then it was so much better because you could trigger it a few times. It was just like, oh my god. It, like, the undead would then give you more avenge, and then that would help you trigger it again. And if you started off with a lot of avenge on your board, yeah, it was just like... But now it's just like, avenge 8, get a random undead in your hand. Again, your board has to be so hyper specific. Like, you almost need to have, I don't know, like 2 or 3 death rattle token units on your board to even consider this at the time. So yeah, I don't know. Not a biggest fan. Booty Bay Brew goes from 4 to 4-3. Yeah, the problem is it's not money. And it's all about money, right? You want to get trinkets that give you money. This is when you're in trouble. You take these trinkets if you are dying, if you really need that tempo. If you've had a good early game, you don't really want to take a trinket that doesn't give you money, because then you're just going to develop your board slower than the people that did get a money trinket. So always, when you're picking your lesser trinkets, be on the lookout. Can this give me money? Does this give me minions? Does this give me gold? Does this give me spells? Just resources. That's what you're looking for. Tiger Carving, yeah, it's self-damage beast. It's not really a thing right now. I don't know, it gives health now. Probably still not interested. Mama Bear sticker, same deal. It's like so outdated. Again, if you have a lot of summon beasts, then you need tempo, then sure. But I'm not looking for this. Cursed Crystal, wow, goes from 3 cost to 1 cost and gets another buff. So now every time you roll, you get 3-3. You just don't want to roll early, that's the problem, right? And then by the time you're in a late game where you are rolling, the buff doesn't really matter that much anymore, because generally you will have a Conqueror on your board to already buff the shop. So you would have much rather taken a trinket that made it easier for you to get to, you know, the Bran and the Conqueror and stuff. So yeah, still not really a fan. Then the greater trinkets. Sushi Roll. Oh, I didn't even... Is Sushi Roll in? I haven't seen Sushi Roll. But yeah, so your first 2 spellcrafts cast an extra turn. This will cost an extra gold. That's interesting. Maybe like Deep Blue with Belinda is just like quite a bit better. Shaker Portrait, I can see, yeah, that's honestly very good with Deep Blue. Mech Trinkets getting nerfed makes sense. Powder Keg on 1, yeah, I guess that's fair. Because if you have Macaw in the lobby and then you can get Titus, it's actually quite powerful. It's quite a toxic composition, honestly. Because you just make like a huge pirate and then use Macaw, and it's like that old ship jumper comp where you can just summon a bunch of scallywags. Then these will cost 1 gold more as well. Yeah, that's fair. Fancy Spellbook, I'm not sure of. I guess if you're able to generate enough spell power, fine. But the other 2 I can see. I'm pretty happy picking those. These will cost 2 gold more. Yeah, Boom's Monster, so Mech Nerf. Behemoth Portrait? I don't know, man. Are we behemothing? Is there a way to... Oh, duo. Okay. I was thinking like, what changed? What happened? Like, you can copy Behemoth with duo. Okay. Got it. Yeah, that is like, because behemoth doesn't really matter unless you can get more behemoths. Like if you can get more behemoths, they suddenly start to be really good because you can do stuff like avalanche and double the stats, and it's like, yeah, it's quite good. But you do want more than one. That's why it's so insane. Anytime you have lava lantern in the game, it's so strong because you can use that to make more behemoths, and now you can use duo to make more behemoths. So that might be part of the nerf. 3 gold more for Electrode Attractor. Wow, just remember guys, this was mechs cost 1, right? But again, it's a mech trinket nerf. Mechs have been doing well, so understandable. 1 gold less for Bloodbound and Cheese. I don't really care. I don't think these are good. I don't think 1 gold less is going to change my mind on that. 2 gold less on these. Ooh, the major time warp is now free. That's like very lore accurate. Well, not really lore, but whatever, because time warps are free, right? So now you basically just get time warp. Like you don't pay gold for it. It's just a time warp turn. 2 gold less for book is nice. Although I did take book recently, I was like, Jesus, these spells are bad. So maybe the spell density changed a little bit, or because book was like super solid before, but maybe I haven't been paying attention to the spell pool too much lately. Calligraphy, 2 gold less. Yeah, that's not a bad one if you are committed into Quill. Guiding Candle I've not been a fan of recently, so yeah, sure, 2 gold off that, and then Cyclone, sure. Blood Amulet also super hyper specific, but in the right comp with high gems, and you have like Titus and Macaw and Reborns and stuff, sure. Yeah, I don't like Kibble, so 3 gold less for these guys. Thorn Spike also feels so situational, so yeah, very happy to not pay 5 gold for these. Baller Portrait gets nerfed. You now have to play 9 elementals instead of 8. Yeah, I guess, well, you have to count the 2 ballers as well, so it's realistically only 7, but still 7's a lot, right? You have to play 7 elementals and then you get ballers. Maybe it's too easy of a strategy where it's, you know, you're guaranteed to scale because you're getting the ballers. I don't know. I don't think I'm super happy to take this in my games. Beatboxer Trinket gets no more magnetic, but it is 4 gold, huh? It's still a nerf, right? Because you'd rather just get a magnetic straight away to stack on or to have a chance for a Quartertron. But Beatboxer is just so good. It's easier to generate magnetics now, and especially with Moonsteel, stacking has never been so easy. You play Moonsteel, and then you play the satellite, you put Mechs on top of the satellite. The start of the next turn, you get 2 more satellites in your hand, so now the satellite from the board is golden, which means it gets pulled back to your hand. And then you play another satellite, put the golden satellite on top of the regular satellite, and now all the magnetics that were on that one get added to the Beatboxer. So that means all the Quartertron money gets added again, all the stats gets added again. So that's what people refer to when they say stacking with Beatboxer, and Moonsteel just enables that super well. Ribbon gets a nerf. I've only recently discovered really the power of this, so I can see it. It's really because it's so easy to cast a lot of spells in combat with Emergent, with, you know, maybe even a Rylak on a Queen's Guard. You get extra triggers. You play with the Shiny Ring, right? The Shiny Ring Dragon. So lots and lots of opportunities to cast a lot of spells. And then we got Big Copper Coil also getting nerfed. Now, funny enough, I don't like this one as much because this is a much bigger investment than the small one. With the small one, you're still scaling if you're able to spam magnetics. Let's say if you do have the Electron. But I mean, if you have the nuts for this, sure, you can play it. I saw Matsuri do a really cool line with this where he had Reborn Scrap Scraper and he was playing Secret Guy. So he was just copying the Scrap Scraper with Taunt, so he was getting a handful of magnetics. And then this is still wonderful, of course. Heart of the Forest gets nerfed from 5 to 6 spells. That's crazy, man. I don't know. Are people doing this with like back-to-back or something? With the 5-drop that gives you the spell end of turn with Drakari? I don't know. I've not really been I took this one time and it was really unimpressive. Because it didn't work with Pirates. Like when I played the Privateer, I thought it would proc multiple times and it didn't. So each bounty was still only 1 cast. And I was like, oh, that's so slow. So I don't know. But yeah, I'm probably doing something wrong. Probably doing something wrong. Shark Cannon gets nerfed. Yeah, that's anomaly right there. This is like, there's too much money. People are just taking Shark Cannon and getting big. Because this is not really nerf worthy normally, but it's easier because you have more money now. So sure. Sky Golem Portrait is going from 3-3 to 2-2. Yeah, I've been seeing this around. It is really good tempo, and there are some illegal combos where you can get this and then Hawk Strider if you have 2 greater trinkets. You can, you know, obviously just have a Titus and get a lot of triggers on this, and then your Sky Golem grows like crazy. So yeah, this has a lot of potential. Orb of the Unknown goes from 3 to 4 gold. Yeah, people aren't gambling away to greater trinket enough, so Blizzard is incentivizing that. Hey, take the gamble more. I'm just kidding. But yeah, that makes sense. People aren't really or they're taking it and they're not doing that well. So just increase the payoff a little bit. Nala goes from 3-3 to 4-4. Yeah, still same problem here, right? The cap is too low. It's fast, right? Yeah, you have a Nala. Your Nala gives an extra 4-4. You spam some spells, but in the end, you will get outscaled. So I'm still not really a fan of doing this. The Fowler portrait is 10-10. Yeah, it's a greater trinket. I'll buff my fodder somehow. I don't care. It's fine. I do not want to waste my greater trinket on a tavern buff. At least, you know, one-time tavern buff, right? If this was like, obviously it'd be too strong, right? But if you could somehow repeat this and get more value out of it over the course of your game, sure. But a one-time 10-10, I mean, it can work if you have everything, right, to generate fodders. You're good to go. You just don't have any buffs, sure, right? But highly situational, highly situational. Tiger carving, the big one, is now 6-2. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I should just try a self-damage beast at some point, but I feel like I'll be disappointed. But sure. Nothing like a good disappointment in the morning. Gilnean Thorned Rose, same thing, right? It's this Avenge 3 self-damage board. Now, funny enough, there was a unit that could go almost infinite with this, and it was like a goose comp. It was this 2-drop, I think, where if it took damage, it spawned a token beast. And because the Gilnean Thorned Rose also buffs the unit, it will never end up killing it with dealing that damage. So if you had enough goose lords, if you had enough of them on your board, then the tokens would feed the Avenge, and then the damage on the goose will spawn another 3 tokens if you had 3 of them. So it was very, very funny. Outside of that, I don't know. It again feels like it's not going to be big enough. Then again, they keep adding numbers to this, right? So at some point it's enough, right? If this gives 200, it's definitely enough, right? Obviously that's way too much. But just to make my point, like, they can give this a value where it is strong, right? That's not the point. The thing is, like, what is that value that is fair, right? That makes it strong enough, but also not oppressive. That's what they're trying to hit the sweet spot with that. I'll try it out, you know, that's all I can say. I'll try it out. Oh god, I hate these kind of trinkets, man. These are the trinkets where you're just like, your game is screwed, just admit it. Try to get another 2 wins and call it a day. That's what this trinket is, right? This trinket is, you're dying, you found no way to buff your undead, here's just 15 damage for your greater trinket, then it's gone. Other people have like really fun greater trinkets, they get continuous value, they get like Faces Manipulator, copy a huge unit or something, but you get 15 damage on your undead. You get 3 butcherings. That's what this is, right? Like 3 butcherings for you, sir. And again, sometimes it's what you need to not die, but anytime you take this, you're just like, oh, it's so sad. So yeah, I dislike these trinkets. They just give me a bad feeling. Surveyor portraits, yeah, an extra, like for instance here, this is continuous value, right? Like even though it's still not insane and it's Quillbore and Quillbore aren't doing too hot, at least now I know that for the rest of the game, all my gems are going to be like 6-6. So that's going to add up a lot over the course of the game. If you're staying on tier 4 and you're doing that comp, yeah, sure. That should be fun. An extra 6-6 is a lot, actually. Yeah, I might actually try to tier, like if I get an anomaly that's not too high in power level, maybe like double hero power or something like that, I can see maybe trying it. Then Fly to Flag is not a big change. It basically just says you can't target 7-drops. And this is because you can't roll 7-drops unless you're on tier 7. So people have just been getting baited en masse. And this is Blizzard being like, hey, don't target your 7-drops. It doesn't work, okay? So now it actually won't allow them to target 7-drops anymore because it's tier 6 or below. And that's good. That's good. It's a little silly that you were able to target 7-drops when tier 7 wasn't in the game. Because obviously if you're playing Fly to Flag anomaly, you're not playing tier 7 anomaly. So you can never roll the 7-drop. So it's a bit of an oversight, but they fixed that. All good. Ooh, then we have the Phelan anomaly. We have the increased rarity removed. So this is something that happens when they have the mid-season or new season and they have some kind of a new mechanic or new things. They want you to play with the new stuff. They also, you know, people generally want to play with the new stuff. So especially if you only play 1 game a day, maybe like 1 every 2 days or something, like you're very busy, you do not want to get the old anomaly too often, right? So this is the thing where whenever new things are added, they put a bonus on it and then you see them more often, just, you know, especially for the lower sample size players. It just helps you play with the new stuff faster. But now that rarity is going to be removed, so now it's going to be a little bit more equal. You're going to see all the anomalies more equal. And they've also removed the rarity for this one. So I think, oh, actually it's the rarity for trinkets and then also this anomaly. I think that's because this one is not as fun as the Morchi anomaly, as the Murrazant anomaly, as the, you know, everybody is buttons, everybody is Marin. I think those are a lot cooler. Whereas Phelan is just like, it's okay, but it's not crazy. So I like that. And then they've also added 10 seconds to turn 1. That's great because you have a lot of picks to make. It's kind of sad for Phelan in regular games. Phelan is like, bruh, I got to do it in the normal time. Why does everyone else get more time? But, you know, if literally everyone is Phelan, I don't think that's going to hurt to give you 10 extra seconds to choose. And then, yeah, this is across the board, right? So the Morchi turn, you get 15 extra seconds. The Murrazant turn, you get 15 extra seconds. That makes sense. No more Whistle and Compass and False Idols. Yeah, I mean, with False Idols, it's just very sad to have a trinket that makes it easier to triple because it's already easier to triple. So you feel like you're getting a little screwed. Good removal. Oh, this one is good, yes. Now, I love rolling this, don't get me wrong. This is very fun, but it's also highly illegal. In the cube anomaly, or if you just took cube as your trinket, rolling typewriter is so disgusting, right? Because you could be on tier 5 and suddenly get like 2 extra 5 drops for free or 6 drops even. It's just, or even better, if you roll this on the first turn of your mystery cube, insane tempo and value. It's just disgusting. So yes, I think removing that is a good preventive measure here because it's great when it happens to you, but it also just increases this range on how good a cube is. So in the cube anomaly, you can go 2 or 3 turns and get almost nothing out of your cube, or you can get a typewriter into a lens case, into a bartender thing, the oil can that your leveling is now like 6 gold cheaper because it's 3 and then start of the turn another 3. That's like so good. So yeah, very, very fair change. Time Warp Mithrax is banned from Oathstone. Yeah, I think that's fine. I don't like it whenever anomalies have like a hyper specific play pattern to them, or like do this or lose. And with Poet and Mithrax, you kind of just do that or lose, because the Mithrax takes all the stats of 3 friendly minions. So what you do is you have 3 big guys, then a Mithrax and a Poet. Mithrax takes the stats of all those guys, Poet makes it permanent, and the next turn you do it again and again and again, and that's just crazy scaling. And if you really want to put it to the next level, what you do is you take an Immortal, and you put the Immortal next to the Mithrax, so that whatever stats the Mithrax had already accumulated goes on top of the Immortal, and then the Immortal is one of your 3 types, so the Mithrax takes those stats again, and then the Poet makes it permanent. And if you got a Golden Poet, it's double. If you have a Golden Mithrax, it's double again. If you got a Golden Immortal, it's double again. It's just like, it's so, it's like hundreds of thousands of stats you can get like that. So yes, silliness, let's remove it. I'm all for that. Lava Lamp is now banned from souvenir stands. Yeah, that's probably just a little too good. Every time you get that, you're just like, whee! Elementals everywhere! Yeah, because so many elementals give you more than just the one body. You can get a Salamental, you can get the reroll one, right? If you have a brand, it's 4 rolls for free. You can get Tavern Tempest again with a brand. So not to mention just getting good elementals, right? You can get the engine to buff the shop. You can get the one that gives you arcane absorption to take the stats from the shop. So yeah, pretty silly if you get 2 of those. And then we have some bans from the Lesser Fortune. I can see this because Lesser Fortune with double coin purse, like, my god, you click that level button so fast. You're just like, because all I gotta do is when I reach tier 6, I got 15 extra gold times 2. I got 30 gold. Now it would be only, what is it? Is it 12 gold? You know, so 24 gold still, you know, that's not an insignificant nerf, but still 24 gold is a crazy turn. 2 souvenir stands probably also just gives you too much of a power spike. Same thing with trip vouchers. So while it is really fun, it probably just increases the difference in your game versus other people's games too much. So I can understand them removing that. And that was the patch video. If this was useful to you guys at all, please consider subscribing if you haven't already, liking the video. All those things do help a ton. And as always, if there are any things you disagree on, questions you have, or just, you know, want to say hi in the comments, please do so, because I read every single one of the comments on these types of video. As always, I'll see you guys next time.